Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Christopher Ludwig here, Editor-in-Chief at Automotive Logistics and Automotive Manufacturing Solutions, and welcome to the Livestream Hour, where today we have a really exciting program. I've been looking forward to this one. We're looking at startup OEM supply chains and understanding what it takes to build up new logistics organizations, supply chain organizations from scratch, the opportunities, the challenges, and not least during these particular crisis times that we're in. And we have a really interesting company with me today who I'll bring on in a little while, in INEOS Automotive, which is indeed a startup in the automotive space, but as of course we'll hear as we go through, not altogether a startup in general. And really some interesting and fascinating insights to come, which I think you're all really going to enjoy. And it's a very timely show indeed. So thanks again to everyone for continuing with us. Many of you, of course, are returning viewers to the Livestream Hour, which we've been doing over the last 4 months or so. And as many as you know, we're heading closer to a bit of a pause, but got some great content with you to share before. So thanks again to everyone who keeps joining us and those of you who are new today. Firstly, thanking our partners in the Livestream Hour. Inform, a key software and IT company very specialized in automotive logistics, HAL, Horizon Auto Logistics, vehicle terminal and port processing provider, which has, again, very important vehicle logistics services, Product International, technology and IT company in the automotive supply chain, and Fract Logistics Solutions, finished vehicle logistics IT provider providing TMS services, and in some ways a startup itself. So again, thanks again to our partners. I do encourage you all to find out more about them on our website, because they offer solutions and services very specific to your industry. Our show today, as usual, we'll kick off with some roundup and some headlines, looking at what's happening in the supply chain over the past week and in the context of the crisis, and introducing our session. And then I'll be really excited to share the screen and stage and hand over to Marko Weisshaar, who's the head of supply chain management at INEOS Automotive, and we'll have plenty of time after Marko shares some slides for Q&A as well. So real chance to answer some of your questions. So already you can start sending them through when Marko's presenting, and we'll cover everything we can during the show. A quick reminder, I've been kind of highlighting this to those of you who viewed. Tomorrow we have a bonus episode, let's call it, in the Livestream Hour. We have a special guest from Volkswagen Group Logistics, Matthias Braun, who heads up digitalization and concept development. And it's a separate registration for those of you who've been following our show. So if you want to join tomorrow or keep up with that, there's the link. I've just put it across to you now. Do register as well and join us the same time tomorrow, 9:30 Eastern Standard, 3:30 Central European Time, for a special episode there. So just to highlight that as before we get going. What's happened in the world? What's happening around in the world of supply chain? Again, as many of you know, obviously we continue to struggle with the COVID crisis, but I wouldn't say it begins to recede, but we continue to move further into the recovery phase here in Europe. One of the last, let's say, more important major manufacturers to restart production will restart now in the middle of August with Vauxhall's Ellesmere Port plant. So there's just a few plants that wouldn't have restarted. Of course, we're not back to full capacity, but some manufacturers are getting back to there. And we've had some interesting news from a few this week about reaching or surpassing pre-COVID levels. At the same time, we see plenty of other developments. Of course, when we talk about startups, we're often talking about EV as well. British Volt with plans for a gigafactory in Wales, BMW inking a big deal with Northvolt for supply of cells, battery cells in Europe later in the decade, and maybe even pointing to some positive news, which we don't often haven't had too much chance to talk about in the last 14, 16 weeks. The Turkish market has really been taking off of late and is worth kind of pointing out. Huge rise in June, that's from very low levels in 2019. However, kind of now starting to surpass this pre-COVID outlook and forecast. Productions and exports starting to come back with it, especially as some markets in Europe recover. But we do see some supply chain bottlenecks and issues which could hinder that. So I think when you look across the world right now, it's probably China, Turkey, and South Korea are the ones showing some positive numbers, and hopefully the others starting to move in that direction too. But it's a challenge. And we look at North America, you can see it's not just COVID that's changing aspects of the production network. Mercedes-Benz and Volvo have faced some issues with the low-selling sedans, which have partly contributed to slowdowns in their production. Mercedes will even move sedan production early out of Mexico and Alabama. This is Automotive News reporting and confirmed by Mercedes-Benz. Back to Germany, making room for SUVs, which, as we know, still dominating, and that's a subject I'm sure we'll be coming back to a little bit on the show as well. So you see some shifts and change in the supply chain there. When we look to China, again, where the recovery continues, just an interesting statistic I wanted to share this week. Mercedes, 85% of its June sales had some form of online financial transactions happening. So that shift to online is huge in China right now, and see it driving growth and pushing for more alternative delivery. And I think just in terms of the supply chain, that's a trend we want to pay close attention to, because there's a lot of interesting technology and planning aspects that can come with that. But at the same time, on the not so good news, obviously that trade war with US and even the UK now heating up in the wake of Hong Kong. Other aspects of automotive trade certainly could be in the firing line there, and disrupting the supply chain further, which, as we all know, remains highly disrupted in terms of container shipping cancellations, blank sailings, improving relative to the peak of the crisis, but still really high from the reports that we're seeing. And that is leading to some alternatives. So we've seen some pickup in the Europe-China rail services as some aspects align. So that's a very quick run through. Certainly not all the things that are happening across the world, but we like to kick off the show with just some headlines and highlights to give you a sense of what's going on. Today, talking about startups. Well, this is by no means a comprehensive list of all the ones that are out there, but just a few of the names which obviously have been in the press quite a bit over the past couple of years as they look to disrupt the sector. Many coming out of China, of course, many focused on the EV side and alternative fuels, with various production plans, contract manufacturing arrangements, etc. Not all of them coming to life, but there are some who are already producing and selling vehicles. NIO, XPeng, Weltmeister, all these in China who have come on to the scene in recent years and starting to see some success, and iWays as well, sorry. And then we also have plenty of companies with a lot of valuation and funding behind them. So the likes of NIO, Nikola, XPeng, Rivian, Weltmeister, and even this week we saw XPeng, I think, raise another 500 million from investors. And of course, Rivian having big backing from the likes of Amazon and indeed Ford, and in China, XPeng, and also seeing Alibaba backing. So it's an interesting mix out there, certainly on the EV side. Clearly as well, there are companies who we've seen come and go. Some of them already, whether they've ceased operations or gone into insolvency. Clearly this is a competitive landscape and not an easy one. There's others which have sort of gone at one point, like Fisker or Faraday, and then they come back again in other forms. So it's a dynamic set of conditions out there, and certainly the crisis is making it even more difficult. On the one hand, when you don't have production or sales to lose, perhaps as an advantage, but clearly with funding and the sentiment in the market, lots of challenges there. But what about in the supply chain? I mean, there's lots of opportunities, perhaps, when we think about building up a supply chain from scratch, but clearly plenty of challenges too, whether it's managing scale and purchasing, production, logistics. Of course, is so key to automotive. So when you're starting from nothing, where do you go from there? Outsourcing versus control, whether you're deciding to contract manufacture, whether you're thinking of brownfield or greenfield, lots of questions to consider in the supply chain around that. Building up your networks of supply and distribution. What do you outsource? What do you insource when it comes to logistics? Working with 3PLs, 4PLs, etc., doing it in-house. And of course, maybe certainly one of the most important aspects, finding and maintaining talent from within the industry, from without the industry. Lots of questions there. And I think it goes without saying, perhaps, that this is an environment that is always going to require a lot of flexibility, variation, and change management. It's something that many startups deal with. And perhaps also now, especially in the COVID times, new normal. We talk about the new normal. Well, if companies never got to operate in the old normal, what does a new normal mean for them? So I think a very interesting context and set of challenges for companies today. And it's with that I'm really excited to introduce our first guest, our guest today, Marko Weisshaar, who's head of supply chain management at INEOS. And I'm going to hand over shortly to Marko. Marko, would you care to join us on stage?
Yeah,
hello, Marko.
Yeah. Hi, Chris. Thanks for inviting me. And
pleasure.
Very excited to tell something about INEOS Automotive and the supply chain management.
Absolutely.
Good. And I think exactly the topics you captured, I try to answer them all. And if something is still missing, we have the Q&A session. This is for sure. And if you're okay, I just would like to start. Maybe say something about myself.
Yes, please. So why don't you start off? Tell us a bit about INEOS and yourself, and I'm going to hand over with the slide deck to you right now. So I'll see you at the end of it for the.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, welcome everyone. My name is Marko Weisshaar, from INEOS Automotive. I'm heading supply chain management. I always need to say what is supply chain management, because every company has another opinion about what is supply chain management. So you can call me head of logistics, which is also probably the right approach. So this is all the material flow, and I would say right from the supplier to handover point to the commercial side, more or less end to end. And this is my responsibility. I'm here for 14 months. I have some experience with automotive and some experience with other companies like Siemens. So I have some experience around, but also the team. But yeah, now let's introduce INEOS and INEOS Automotive. Probably some guys of you don't know something about INEOS and INEOS Automotive. So we'll introduce first a little bit what is behind it. Then what is the scope of supply chain? What are we doing? What are our core values, which we have, I would say, worked on for the last couple of months, and our guiding principles behind where we are heading on and focusing for. And then our supply chain leadership model, and it was developed and really proven during COVID-19, because as you say, Chris, now we have a new normal, right? And although supply chain is never a normal, we still have a new normal then, and try to explain it here. Okay, let's try to say something first about INEOS. Who is INEOS, or what is INEOS? Before I joined INEOS, many people asked me, when I told some people I will go to INEOS, many people did not know even what is INEOS, and we have a saying here, and it was pretty much in many of the countries one of the biggest unknown companies that are existing. So INEOS is a global manufacturer of petrochemicals, specialty chemicals, and oil products. So probably when you're sitting in your room and you have some things probably more or less out of plastics around you, the products, part of it will be, probably the resins will be from INEOS, or the raw material for it, liquids or whatever. A range of products. We have 34 businesses, a 60 billion sales turnover, 22,000 employees, and 183 sites, and 26 countries throughout the world. That's the business. Very important to say. We are privately owned. We are fast-paced. We have now an age for more than 20 years. So this is probably the unknown side of it. So chemicals, many people are not so much interested in chemicals. Can you just go back to the slide before? So people are more interested a little bit more what they see on TV. And one thing on the upper left side, what you see is the Tour de France team, which is now for almost 2 years belonging to INEOS. Happy to announce that this year the Tour de France team will be called the Grenadiers, and will be officially called the Grenadiers when they start, and hopefully win again the Tour de France. Of course, it needs to take place this year, that's for sure. Hoping this. And then you see Eliud Kipchoge in Vienna last year in October. He won. He was the first human running the marathon below 2 hours. It was a great thing. INEOS founded it and made that, put everything together so that he can do it. You see here the Formula One team, the AMG Mercedes Petronas team, where now INEOS is a prime sponsor. We see here the Team UK for the America's Cup. where we are going to. So INEOS is having that, or let's say, owns the team UK for the America's Cup next year. Then we own the label, the brand Bell stuff, very known for wax jackets. It's an old label, British label, and last but not least, also football, where we have two football teams, one in Switzerland and one in France. You see here a photo of the OGC Nice. So I think this is where we are known for, and hopefully very soon we are also known for a Grenadier, and that's the next one of the next pages. Can you go to the next one? Yeah, about INEOS Automotive. You see here our founder in front of the pub of the Grenadier pub in London. The pub is founded in 1720. It was a host for the British guards, for some guardsmen, and so the pub was always called the Grenadier pub. By the way, that has a great beer, and so if you're around there, go there. Worth trying a beer. It's really good. I can prove you. And yeah, our founder of INEOS, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, was sitting in, and he was thinking about in 2016, is it worth to think about going to the automotive market, produce a utilitarian 4x4 off-roader? And he made some study, and the study said, well, why not? Why not to do? And quick decision in 2017, we founded the business. He founded the business, and not I. I would be happy about that, yeah, for sure. And then it's established, and we are trying to develop it now. And we are heading to see the production of our first vehicles end of next year. That's exciting, and every day very exciting, and that's where we're going to. Now look to the car and to the vehicle on the next slide. What is the Grenadier? So we had the unwrapping around 3 weeks ago of the exterior design, yeah, and we wanted to have an uncompromising 4x4, which is capable, durable. For example, we have no fancy or I would say no things we want to test around it. So we have a proven BMW engine, we have ZF auto transmission, we have Carraro tractor axles, very stable, very durable parts, accessories we want to have around that are easy to get and put on. Then the car has to be easy to repair, to get easy to grab the pieces and repair by yourself. The car and the off-roader needs to carry and pull for the people on the field going out, and carry minimum 1 ton and pull 3.5 tons. And for sure, when you go off-road, that's what an off-roader designed for, you need to have a permanent all-wheel drive. So we already think that a utilitarian 4x4 vehicle designed for workers, designed for farmers in the field, designed for going to terrain, I would say a city vehicle will never try to do. That's what the car is designed for, and that's what we want to achieve. Yeah. But hopefully now you know a little bit more about the car and the business, and now going a little bit more to supply chain. Yeah, what is supply chain at INEOS Automotive? I said already something about end-to-end. So we have an end-to-end thinking, starting with supply chain engineering. So for sure, as a startup company, you start with nothing, yeah, just a piece of paper and some brain, and you start thinking about how you set up your end-to-end supply chain. And the supply chain we have divided in 4 parts. One is the source part, how to get the parts into our plants, then the make part, how to get the parts to the manufacturing line and the vehicle off of the line, and how to deliver it to the handover point of sales. And of course, also very important, it's getting more and more important, how to digitize and how to have a real information flow in the supply chain. So these 4 fields are at the moment being engineered. And then once supply chain is running, and we are already running because we have prototype phase, we have prototypes producing, yeah, we are doing the supply chain planning already. This is material planning on one side, and this will be later on production planning. And of course, also the planning, and I would say the S&OP planning, which is the 3 months forecast on vehicles produced. So let's say like this, we want to try with a complete holistic planning approach, somehow being a little bit the belt of the dress of supply chain and of the different silos. So I would say if one silo, for example, is the trousers in manufacturing, another silo is the shirt, and don't talk about other parts you wear. If you don't wear a belt, you still can go somewhere, but it's hard. You will probably fall. But when you have a belt on and when it's perfectly fitting, I think then you have a really streamlined, very good running supply chain. That's what supply chain planning is doing. And then, of course, going live, you need to operate the parts, you move the packages, you need to send the EDI messages to the supplier and put the things to warehouse, put the things to the manufacturing line, put the vehicle to the market, to the customer. That's then the operation part. So these are the parts of supply chain. Go to the next part, go to the next slide. So go a little bit more about our core values, what we have. Well, I said just before, important is a seamless information flow and also to have the governance on the information you have. This is, I think, something very important. So to have, I would say, to have the governance about all the systems that are running for supply chain. ERP systems, TMS, CMS, YMS, and what else all the name about that. And of course, the next one is a lean and reliable supply chain. So reliability is first. But when you combine it with lean elements, I think you have a very good, reliable, and also cost-efficient supply chain. And of course, as said, that INEOS 22,000 employees, 60 billion turnover. That's a low number of employees for the sales turnover. And we want to have in our company, we want to have lean hierarchies, only specialists in our team, very high skilled and driving and knowing what they do. So we have really highly skilled employees in our team. I'm very proud about that because I think only the team effort can achieve at the end a good running supply chain. Main KPIs for us, maybe it's surprising some guys of you. One KPI is OTD, the other KPI is doing it with low cost, so the supply chain cost, the total cost of ownership approach is very important. What is not on, we don't see inventory as cost. Sometimes it's important to have inventory, so maybe these are the main KPIs. We have some other KPIs as well, but these are the ones we are focusing on at the moment. Okay, then let's go. Out of these core values, we have created guiding principles, 4 guiding principles. Actually, that's one is reliable. I would even say best in class. Then adaptable, flexible, and sustainable. First, go to reliability. We want to focus on OTD and logistic costs. We want to establish supply chain risk management, especially during COVID-19. I think it's proven that every company needs to have a supply chain risk management with process analysis, predictive systems, bottleneck identification, IA help, and so on. We want to have real-time traceability. We want to know where the parts are. We want to know where the vehicle is before it's delivered. We just want not to be surprised when something happens. We know it before. Adaptability, high adaptable partners in supply chain design. So no matter if we are doing the supply chain engineering or if we're doing the supply chain operations part, we need to have partners for that. 3PL, 4PL consultants, but they need to be adaptable as well, the same than us. Standardized interfaces with all the processes is also something what is very important for sure. The next one is flexible. So in order to be flexible, you need to have standardized processes. Not every day think about new processes. No, they need to be standard and they need to be designed to be very flexible for sure. We need to have a process in place which identifies and manage volume constraints for sure. Develop and run flexible networks. Not the same ones, and they need to be 100% flexible and the same flexible than we are. Sustainability, for sure, we need to avoid carbon emissions. This is a very, very important thing. And also when it's going to packaging, we want to own and we want to invest in returnable and also environmentally friendly packaging as possible. Just can give you one example for our plastic standard packaging. We want to use reusable and used resins to make this packaging. So this is something what are our guiding principles, and that's what we're aiming for. That's the progress at the moment. Yeah, and then looking a little bit, because as I said, supply chain you cannot implement when you don't have a team behind, and not only a small team. The team needs to grow. We are building a new car, a new vehicle from the scratch. We need to have a team behind, and we invented the so-called 5T. There's five parts which makes which defines our leadership within the supply chain management. I think probably very well known from you as well. And starting from the bottom, of course, you need to have targets, a few, but you need to be responsible. We need to be transparent. Yeah, everyone has KPIs which define also the responsibility of each and every one. Transparency also means when we have our regular meetings, we use virtual whiteboards so that it's transparent where everybody is in. Yeah, where we have the progress. Team meetings, teamwork, and of course, as I said, it's a team effort and it's a team achievement at the end when we are successful. So especially during COVID-19, we have a 10 minutes to 20 minutes daily team meeting where we are in the team. Yeah, because we are across several countries. The team is not just together in Böblingen. We are also in London and other countries, and where we daily talk about what we are doing for sure. Yeah, then we have we say always that was proven already for a long time. I say silence is consent. Yeah, so we need to be open. Yeah, this is for sure. And yeah, it also means camera on now during COVID-19. I think this is also very important. So when you talk to others and when you're not in the same room, at least turn the camera on, talk to each other. And I think that gives you so much better feeling about if the communication works well or not. Yeah, that gives teamwork. But how to achieve good teamwork? This is done, of course, you need to have trust in the team. Yeah. How do you get trust? First of it, to have fun. Yeah, fun is important. We have a failure culture. We trust in that, that when we do it the second time, latest, then it's good, and then it's perfect. The trust also means we had a lot of home office during COVID-19, as every one of you as well. Now coming back, and it's now going a little bit more to be relaxing, but still home office. But yeah, that's also a part of trust, because at home you're sometimes able to do more than even from work. And self-responsibility, that means trust as well. So everybody is the owner of his own targets and to achieve it by himself. And he sees the manager more as a mentor than as an approver. This is very important. And last but not least, so teamwork can be as good as you like and as you want, but without the right upper part, the tackle, and I call it more or less diversity or enabler for discussion. So we need to have diverse opinion. We cannot have always the same opinion. That's what I mean with it. This is tackle, yeah, diversity. How can you have it, these different opinions? We need to have a team, and we have a team with, yeah, a very, very diverse team. That means different companies coming from different, from automotive, then from process industries, from tier ones, from other companies like MTU, and myself from Siemens. And that's different culture. So we all have different experience behind. We have young guys, starters. We have people who had a lot of responsibility in the past in their organizations. We have people who know for 30 years already exactly what they are doing, and be also a mentor for the others. And so this is the tackle. So different experiences, and also to be open to say this other opinion, and we are looking for the discussion and to get the best achievement. So this is our leadership model: self-responsible, different opinions, but at the end having the best result for us all. So that's how INEOS Automotive is a little bit working. So to give you some small insights how we think, but probably you have more questions about that. And yeah, so that's it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marko. I think that was a great great insight into the strategy and thinking, behind building the organization. And I like particularly, first of all, the camera on culture bit. So that's where, I can at least come on now. And maybe there's even a little bit of a chance here to tackle just a little bit, as we as we probe into some of
love tackling, yeah, right.
But we're at a safe distance from it, so don't worry too much for it. So we definitely have some questions coming in from the audience, and we'll turn to those. I thought let's just start with one. What I'm sure, as you know, anyone who's reading the press right now, there are going to be questions around this. So let's tackle it head on. Clearly, there's the INEOS starts with the idea that the original concept was to sub-assembly in Portugal and build in Wales. Now, I'm not saying that won't happen, but obviously anyone keeping up with the press will have seen there are some discussions to potentially take over the Hambach plant for Smart, and even in recent days, there's potentially some talks about Nissan in Barcelona. Now, appreciate that these are ongoing. So, but can you tell us anything about how this is impacting supply chain planning, or any update that you can provide at this point?
So first of all, we are at the moment in discussions with Hambach, with Daimler, and nothing has yet decided. And I think this was something during the pandemic. We had some delay, in construction our site, and we thought about, on one side how to catch up, and on the other side COVID, and also the market now gave us new opportunities to look at. And if you look to your own pocket and look about which value you can give to the customer as well out of it, which benefit you give, you need and you have to look to other opportunities. And so we are at the moment looking to the Hambach options, and we are in discussion with Daimler about that. That's so much we can say about. This is no final decision. We just have a stop and have a pause with Bridgend. We have a pause with Portugal. Nothing more, nothing less. That's all what I can say. So what was your question? Sorry for that. If it impacts the supply chain, right?
Yeah, so thank you for the update anyway. Yeah, how does this kind of pause and potential shift, impact how you plan a supply chain in advance like this? And is that part of just being a startup in a way, or give us some insights there?
Yeah, isn't that sometimes also the things why you want to join such a company like INEOS, because it's fast paced and sometimes changing? I think this is also something what is a thrilling part of it. Although it thrills a lot the last weeks, I have to admit, this is for sure. But actually, where we are at the moment in supply chain planning, it does not affect us too much, because we are at the moment in the concept phase. We're having we are modeling our systems, we are modeling everything. So no matter where we place the systems, the place is not important at the moment. And no matter if you break down your bill of material and make your PFAB, I think the place where you later on produce the car is also not that important. So for supply chain planning, of course, there is not an impact, but there will be definitely also an impact, and a positive impact also on supply chain cost. This is for sure. And there will be all other supply chain models in case we will have an agreement with Daimler. We don't know. We are looking at that. There will be a lot of effects out of it, but nothing what I think we cannot handle. So looking forward to it, and looking forward to contribute to any kind of decision that will be made during the next weeks or months. We're trying to have a fast decision for sure, because then we are sure up to speed, and actually look at when you look on one side to a location that needs to be designed, which is greenfield, brownfield, whatever, that's good, but it's far away from being completely constructed and running. And there can always be something, And on the other side, you look to something which is already designed and almost running and proven. So why not also decide for the proof? This is for sure. We need to look and to consider and look what's coming out of it.
Well, and I suppose the important thing from a supply chain point of view, in fact, is that a supply chain plays a role in the decision of some kind, right? Because obviously the impacts, the total impacts, as you mentioned, and sort of the total supply chain cost views, do play a role in obviously making manufacturing decisions, making make or buy decisions, or things like that. So I can see how that at this stage that that doesn't affect the operation side of it yet, but an interesting time now clearly for your team, I'm sure, to be involved and to be contributing to those discussions. Another point maybe from my side before I turn to some audience questions, when we think about supply chain organization, supply chain management organization, avoiding the total siloed approach where the right hand doesn't know what the left is doing. Maybe an example where purchasing decisions or other decisions might get made separately. In terms of what you are building and seeing so far versus the experience you've had or seen in the industry, do you see a more integrated approach or an opportunity for an approach here at INEOS?
We have to make an integrated approach for that. That does not mean that the supply chain will be responsible for everything. No, not at all. But being the right facilitator. This is for sure. What I have seen in my past, no matter if in automotive or anything else, very often you have the silos and there was no S&OP process, no flatlining process in place so far, and that made a lot of disruption also finger pointing. Yeah, and actually now we are at the moment and we have this experience about that. How can we avoid this finger pointing? Yeah. Of course, with a good culture, with a good atmosphere on one side, but on the other side, you also need to look that you, from the organizational point of view, are preparing for it, and from the process point of view as well. Yeah, and I think I had more than one nightmare in my past 20 years probably because we just did not establish these processes. Yeah? So that's one of the most important things.
Absolutely. One of the points you made, which is picked up by our audience in a few questions, and I thought it would be something interesting to probe a little bit. So one of the questions from the audience was noting on not seeing inventory as a cost or as a KPI in that sense, but also putting a big focus on lean. So how would you kind of explain potentially, is there a contradiction there? And maybe to build on the point, if inventory isn't a KPI there, how do you consider that? Is it logistics? Is there more about strategic advantages of positioning and logistics? So maybe just a little bit more on that point would be great.
Okay, try to explain it at least. Yeah, KPI inventory is for sure not the main KPI. There is for sure we cannot say we want to have a 1-year stock. That's for sure. Yeah, this is not the thing we want to aim, but we want to have a kind of inventory that we think we can very good live on with. No matter if there is a change management ongoing, of course, you need to have just as much inventory than it's needed. But when you start and when you are a new OEM, you don't know what will come up. And of course, you will have, if you plan a new plant or an existing one or whatever, yeah. So you start with low volumes. And for low volumes, you can start with a high number of days of inventory to avoid these disruptions, learn out of it. And from time to time, you go less with the inventory. But still, and this is what I said with proven during COVID-19, you need to have for strategic parts and for some parts also strategic risk inventory. This is important. Without that, you cannot live. So we will definitely not start with warehouse on wheels concepts. That makes no sense. We start with, I would say, yeah, cannot say the number of days, but some days of stock at the beginning for the Grenadier, and then try to reduce it where possible, and not try to start with no inventory, which causes high transportation, high logistics, speed up costs. Even maybe in manufacturing, it causes so many disruptions so that we cannot live with that. And I would say strategic inventory in combination with logistic cost. I think this is the key. And then you can avoid a lot of costs that normally occur, which you never planned.
Absolutely. Okay, great. A couple of the questions from the audience. Some keen to know where the Grenadier will be distributed and available. There's a question: will it be in India? I mean, I don't know. We perhaps didn't touch on that as yet. Is there as yet a plan on the outbound side for where the vehicle will eventually be sold? Is that still being decided?
Well, an exact plan is not available, but we want to definitely start with in Europe. This is for sure. Next one, North America. There is something where we'll also go to Africa, New Zealand, Australia. These are more or less the main markets which I know out of my mind. But first we start in Europe. Why go far when we can go first within Europe and then see? So that's our idea behind to start. But as said, we have no plan so far. And what also applies for supply chain quality also applies for the car's quality. That's first, yeah, and then see how that can be distributed to the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the points, again, related to your point on tackle, was the diversity of the team and how to, how important that is. And I thought, can you just talk a little bit about the background makeup, what kind of entails? So does the team, you yourself, background from Siemens, we know there's some people with experience from traditional OEMs, from other startups. Are there some as well from other parts of INEOS? I mean, maybe just a bit of a flavor would be interesting to see how you built that team.
Yeah, it's a good question. So yeah, especially the tackle part. That's right. So actually, there is almost no no connection to any other part of INEOS except our CEO Dirk Hallmann. So he's coming from the chemical part. He's the only INEOS or original INEOS guy, and the rest is all coming from other industries or mainly from automotive. And one you have seen this in the article this week as well, from Dyson Automotive. So we have already some startup experience in our team. Also McLaren experience, JLR, Honda, Daimler, Volkswagen. If you look to the tier ones, it's I can name Faurecia, I can name Bosch as tier ones. And if you look to other industries, MTU, for example, is one, and the other ones, people are coming also from Infineon, so process industries. And I strongly believe that logistics and supply chain for process industries is another level even than automotive. So I think we have the right mix in there. So these are more or less the, probably I forgot something, but that's mainly how the team is structured.
Yeah.
Of course,
you also highlight
in different countries as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's so essential in a global supply chain or international supply chain, as we certainly see. In fact, Marko's made reference to a great article, an interview, which is on our website today. We'll put a link actually through the chat shortly, so you can see it. It's also on our homepage, so you can find it really easily. So do check it out and read that as well. Turning to the kind of collaborations with sort of key suppliers and companies. Now, obviously, you mentioned. I mean, we talked about Magna Steyr involved, I believe, on some parts of the product, BMW supplying powertrain, and you mentioned ZF and a number of others. And I just wondered, do these companies or companies like them play a role in clearly the location side, but also in aspects of the supply chain planning and network as you build that up in terms of working with perhaps finding some of those scales and things like that, which we talked about?
Well, actually, as you know, of course, I cannot say other OEMs when I name, for example, BMW or Daimler. These are not other OEMs; they are another dimension. Yeah, we are a small startup. When we are talking to them, for sure, we see all each other as partners, not supplier and customer relationship or whatever. And when we talk to partners, also Magna Steyr is a partner and a very good development partner and proven to manufacture many very good cars, Daimler's, BMWs, JLR, Jaguar, I think, is produced in Magna Steyr, Toyota, and so on. So they know how to do, and they're great for sure. And we talk a lot to them, but when we try to establish supply chain, I think there is not so much leverage effect where we can have with them together while collaborating. So what we more like to use is we definitely will work with 4PL and 3PL together with partners who know how the supply chain is working. Also on the digitalization part, by the way, not only on the transportation and warehousing part for sure. And then we look how we make the split. Important is for us, we have the ownership. We have the ownership of at least the governance on systems. We define which systems to use. We define how them to use. We make this in partnership. And I think also one very important thing to say is one synergy, of course, we can always have is when we have the Incoterm FCA, especially in Europe with our suppliers, so that we are at least able, when we are collecting with our suppliers, that we can have synergies when all the suppliers are in the same area, that we can put them together, go through hubs and so on. So we go with an FCA strategy and together with supply chain partners, and we will evaluate together how much makes sense to do by ourselves and how much sense does it make to be done by the supply chain partners. Our direction at the beginning is a lot to learn from the partners, yeah, because we have not yet sold any car. So which kind of experience do we have? We cannot say we have a lot of experience, although we have a lot in our team. Yeah, no, we haven't. So first learn, and then do our own steps, and then see where we come up in the future.
Absolutely. So well, that's also an interesting point, obviously, that you will take the FCA approach and obviously manage the supply chain from that side. Perhaps we can build on that a little bit to the thinking and how you're thinking about your logistics partnerships as well. Now, clearly, there would be some potential routes, and some companies go the route of a 4PL, LLP, where most of the management, procurement, network optimization would be outsourced, and obviously there's many variations in between. Where are you in your right now in terms of this decision and thinking, and where do you see it now? You also mentioned about wanting to keep responsibility with the team and skills.
Yes. So first of all, I have to say I really appreciate some weeks ago when we talked, or when you talked about Ford India, the approach going from 4PL more to insourcing more and doing this with AI and with digitalization. I think absolutely this is the right path to go, but we are far away from it for sure. And I said we need to find the right partners. Yeah, we are doing the supply chain design together with potential partners. So we are quite open. We're saying, okay, look, this is how our supply chain will look like. We give you, check it, come up with a proposal how you would do it, and then we can establish it together. Yeah, and so we are doing first an RFP together with our partners, and then and it's also about in and outsourcing about the supply chain operations on site. Yeah, that's the same. So we are trying to look which options we have and then which way to go. So nothing is yet decided, but we are all clear in the team that we are developing it together with partners. This is the only way we can do, because they have the experience, we have the theory, and if you put that together, I think then something really good can come out of it.
Absolutely, and as we saw with the example from Ford of India, and is that this is an evolving, often an evolving journey for many companies, even those quite as large as Ford as well. This isn't always a fix, so something very interesting to keep tracking. I'll turn to a few other audience questions, and one of them there's a few which have a similar theme, so we'll try and group them. And I won't say who they came from for the moment in case they're not comfortable with it, but I can say that they're coming from people from automotive who've been in startups that are definitely interested and have been through similar experiences as well. So, what are some of the key innovations that you see within INEOS' supply chain, and what really excites you in that innovation? And then similarly, some questions about what's the biggest challenge in that process right now as well. So big, broad questions, but I'm sure there's some things that come to mind.
Really good questions, to be honest. Actually, what is challenging me? So I would say what always surprises me and what motivates me is when I go here and I'm back in the office here, and to look to the people and to see that everyone is working towards one target. And I think this is very special in OEM. We want to have that vehicle running. We are all working for that. We are very passionate about that, and I think this is something really that motivates me every day, and where I'm very happy to work for that company. And and I, of course, and you have seen that what INEOS starts, most of it, and I don't know anything what has failed. Everything had so far from that, what I know at least, had success. And so we have trust in that we will have success with our car in our niche at the market. What we have seen for sure, will not be a volume supplier with this car. This is for sure. So looking to that, I would say we are designing a car with proven concepts. And looking to the supply chain, why should we start with sophisticated concepts when there are a lot of proven concepts existing? So I do not want to make, some investigations for sure, but I do not want to play around a lot and to say that we start something but nobody tried before. I think this is the wrong approach so far. Do the proven things and not try to invent the whole world again. For sure, as I said, why not take over some ideas also from Infineon, for example, but it's never been done in the automotive world. for sure, and we are discussing this, yeah. But I think more or less, let's go to the proven concept, and everybody knows what has not gone well in the past, and we are just trying to avoid it and thinking about good things, how to improve that and bring that. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I would say well designed, well proven, and looking forward that it works, and not making experiments. That's all.
Great.
At least not huge experiments.
But you did also obviously emphasize the failure culture, the mistake culture, willingness to fail and improve, and that is clearly, you know, always an interesting point, I think, in the startup atmosphere and the challenges in an automotive supply chain space, where when it gets operating, there's no room for error, of course, or limited room for error because it's the cost, but certainly on the planning and innovation and how you can optimize, there's plenty of room to try and hopefully learn from each time, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure, and especially when you're at the beginning, when you're the first guy for supply chain management, you need to think about who do you need in your team, which talents do you need, and you need to look for the talents. And nowadays, I can only underline, war for talents is not just a word. It's really like this. You don't find the right people probably for the right approach. Very proud that we have it, but it took a long time to have the right people on board and to establish the team. And yeah, that's I think this was the first big milestone, because yeah, we can be as tough as we like, but we cannot solve everything by ourselves. We need to have the team. Yeah.
Absolutely. So another, I would say, grouping of questions were around sustainability. There was a question around sort of circular economy and also other areas that you're going further. And maybe we can then from there touch on the packaging side too, because that obviously would be part of it. But in particular, starting at the point of, because you raised it as one of the key principles there in terms of sustainability. So what, you know, maybe talk a little bit about where you would see opportunities for that, what some of the particular objectives and targets would be.
Yeah. Yeah, for sustainability, this is for sure. When we are going, for example, for an RFQ with our key partners, we will judge their sustainability. They need to prove us what they are doing in order to keep sustainable or to improve in terms of sustainability. The other side is, of course, when we are looking which designs also for packaging are on the market, for sure, collapsibility is a part, and also how do you do the tonnage in that. So of course we want to design together with our suppliers the best kind of packaging for the parts, but try to make it as much collapsible as possible, and try to reduce as many empty transportation without parts as possible. Of course, avoid waste, avoid any kind of disposable package. This is for sure, and as said, these reused plastics by having this in the packaging, in the plastic packaging. This is also something very new to the automotive industry. I think this has been done in other industries a lot, but we are from automotive. We are really the first ones to do that kind of plastic containers with reused plastic in. So yeah. But actually, as INEOS is a company where the raw material is coming from, normally, or could come from, yeah, who also produce this, why not do that? And tests are available.
Absolutely, but we definitely do see sustainability as an important aspect within RFQs, or within the partners that you'll work with.
Yes, very important, yes.
Absolutely.
Although for sure the car is at the beginning not sustainable, for sure, with a combustion engine at the beginning, but also here is the same concept: try proven, and then go to and make a study about, for example, if hydrogen is the solution for the future, or whatever, because at least the parts you need, the energy source is hydrogen instead of a battery normally, but on the other side it will be still an EV. But you can imagine when you go somewhere in the Sahara with the EV, you will not find something where you load your battery or something. So we start with proven concepts for sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and in the beginning when I showed all those brands, the startup brands, of course, that would be the distinguishing feature of INEOS in comparison, which most of the startups obviously are coming into the new energy vehicle space, but some of them also have heritage in other areas and stuff too. So that will be an essential, interesting progression as well. We've got a little bit of time now, and just to give you a sense, I think I'm counting my list. I think I've got close to 30 questions which have come in. So we won't get through all of them, I'm afraid, but we will collect those questions and see how we can perhaps get answers. Maybe even if it's a short follow-up recording of some kind. But it gives you a sense that obviously there's a lot of interest from our audience in what INEOS and other startups are doing. And one of them, again, another area which some are asking about is on the IT side. I mean, you mentioned about having an IT governance, and I would want to just check firstly, is that also a new IT infrastructure that's being set up for automotive as opposed to the rest of the businesses? And if you can just, again, are you still in the stages of deciding what systems and approach you'll take from an IT side, from the planning and optimization, and then later, of course, for the operations?
That's a good thing when you have no legacy. So all the 34, 35 businesses of INEOS, they are independent. Yeah. So for sure, we talk to each other, but everyone is responsible for his own business. So we don't, and on purpose, we don't use many synergies that would be on the table, because we strongly believe the effort to keep the synergy will be higher than the benefit we get out of it. So for sure, we start from the scratch. We start with no legacy. And when do we have the chance to look which kind of IT system works best for us? Yeah. So for sure, we have already ERP system decided, and this is running. This is already productive. We are working on that. This is for sure. But then it's going to other systems like the transport management system, like planning systems, like S&OP system, the MES, looking to container management system, yard management system. What else do we have? Which kind of systems we're looking at? Many, yeah. So we are at the moment running really a comparison about what is available in the world, what do we need, what are our requirements behind it, and how we can combine this. Yeah. So we want to implement it, and maybe we implement something with supply chain partners together, but very sure this will be our data, and we have the ownership on the system. This is for sure. But we want to establish the ones who are still running in 5 years. And the worst thing you can do is you implement something because you just implement, and in 2 years you see, well, that was not the right approach, you change it. And change costs are so high compared to a little bit more effort at the beginning to look and investigate, and then take the right things right from the beginning. Of course, we have the failure culture. There is no guarantee that there will be the right ones, but we try.
Absolutely. So I raised in the beginning the new normal around coronavirus. I mean, clearly we know very well that the global supply chain has been so severely disrupted, and then obviously has begun with new constraints, new processes, etc. Clearly we talked early on about how it disrupted some of the potential timings, so that may be affecting some decisions there. But when you look at how you're looking at logistics, are you building in some aspects of the new normal, if you like, to how this will function? Is it perhaps changing other decisions that you might make, in the supply chain, or perhaps working with other departments too, in terms of, okay, how can we make sure that we're more resilient in the face of such issues?
Yeah, definitely. So being more resilient is very important, and also what we have seen to talk to others during COVID-19, when everybody is in his own small box, is very hard to talk to. As said, I think supply chain risk management needs to have more attention than before. Before we always talked about, well, there is a VUCA world, yeah, this is the buzzword always going on. How can we prepare for it? But now we had one of these uncertain events that coming up with really disrupted a lot, and now we are in, and the next one, of course, you can never foresee a pandemic, but something will happen, yeah, and then you need to be prepared. So that risk management is really a part you really need to have a look at. That's for sure.
you obviously have given us some fantastic insight here. And as I mentioned, there's about another 30 questions there, which unfortunately we won't quite get time to today. I can kind of say that there's a lot of people very interested in where the Grenadier and where INEOS may be going in future in terms of markets and who they might work with, whether that's in Russia, whether that there was a question about China, there was questions about India. So
yeah, we are trying to be open and transparent, and that's why we are that's why we did it today. And if you'd like to know more, yeah, we could connect.
Marko, just to our audience again, thanks again to Marko and INEOS, and you know, I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you've enjoyed this and you've been enjoying our series, please do join us tomorrow for our bonus episode, which I mentioned earlier. There is the link which I put into the chat, which hopefully most of you have seen. If you didn't, I've just did it again. If anyone joined afterwards, register tomorrow and join the conversation with Matthias Braun from Volkswagen Group. We're going to be hearing about the journey the group has been on over the last 4 or 5 months and what it means ahead, and including as well as some aspects of digitalization. So you won't want to miss that. I think it'll be really worthwhile, you know, tuning in tomorrow. And then please be with us next week. We've come this far with us. Come with us next week. It's our last show in the current season. We're gonna turn to a number of different topics, but in particular, we'll give us some more updates on North America. You know, we've got Benteler coming. We've got Honda. So it'll be an interesting discussion, and it'll be our last show just for the summer, whilst we gear up to come back for season 2. And in particular, whilst we gear up for this, our Automotive Logistics and Supply Chain live virtual conference, first one we've ever done. It's going to include plenty of webinars and plenty of sessions, live stream sessions, Q&A panels, but also crucially lots of networking opportunities, e-booths for you to connect with experts, one-to-one meetings you can set up. So you know, it'll be packed with content, but also lots of opportunities to connect. So there's a website there. We're just launching it. There'll be more to come. We really hope that so many of you who have been joining us here each week will come to join us in September. Thanks again to our partners, Inform, HAL, Horizon Auto Logistics, Product International, and Fract Logistics Solutions, all of them key players in the automotive logistics space and supply chain, and all of them players that you should consider for the solutions to problems that you're facing, many of whom we talked about on this show. That's it for me and from our team, including Nimish Ladwa, Rich Logan, Victoria Johns, who wrote the article that I hope you guys take the time to read on INEOS this week. You know, it's our pleasure to bring this to you, keep bringing it to you every week, and we'll be back tomorrow. So hopefully many of you come and join us then, and next week for the season finale. In the meantime, wishing you all the best, stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks again.